Hello everyone, welcome to Carnivorous Plants Hub. I'm guessing there's a great chance that you're here today because you walked into a Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, Trader Joe's, and you saw these beautiful, mysterious, exotic carnivorous plants called Venus flytraps. You decided that you would buy now and ask questions later. It was probably really dry, so you brought it home, gave it some water, set it in your windowsill. After that, it likely died or started to decline rapidly. If this is you, don't feel guilty. This is the majority of people when they buy their first Venus flytrap, including me. Today, we're going to be going over 4 Venus flytrap care mistakes that you're probably making that are slowly killing your carnivorous plant. While going over these mistakes, we'll talk about how you can easily fix them so your Venus flytrap will start growing like crazy and catching flies by the horde. Real quick before we get to the meat and potatoes, if you'd like a free Principal Venus flytrap care sheet and plant tracker, check out the link in the upper left. There's a clickable one in the description and the pinned comment. Just enter your email and a plant tracker and Venus flytrap care sheet will be on their way. Alright, let's go ahead and jump right in. When I bought my very first Venus flytrap, before there was a lot of carnivorous plant info online and before YouTube even existed, I noticed that the soil that my Venus flytrap had come in had a lot of algae on the top. I thought the best thing to do was to repot it. I grabbed some potting soil my mom had laying around after potting up her new garden flowers. It looked so beautiful in its new pot and soil. It died a miserable death over the next few weeks. I had to learn the hard way that the soil requirements for Venus flytraps are very different than the soil requirements for most common houseplants or flowers. Venus flytraps require a soil that is very low on nutrients and has no added fertilizer. The mix should also absorb water well, but not allow the water to puddle or sit. Typically, successful Venus flytrap growers either use a peat moss mix or a long fiber sphagnum moss. I personally like to use a peat moss mix, and actually will be selling my own here really soon. I use a mix of high quality peat moss that I sift to get out all the chunks. I then rinse the peat moss with distilled or pure water to get rid of any salts or other minerals that might have built up. I use a TDS meter to measure the water coming through the soil to help me know when it's been rinsed thoroughly enough. I then add rinsed perlite and rinsed crushed glass. These help keep the mix really airy and prevents it from getting too compact. The soil should remain loose for the roots to easily travel. You can buy similar mixes on Amazon and carnivorous plant nurseries, but beware, I've purchased Venus flytrap soil mix before, only to find out that the water running off the mix shows that it has way too many dissolved solids. In most cases, the peat moss mixes need to be rinsed before using. I will have, or possibly already have, a link in the description to buy my premium Venus flytrap soil. It comes rinsed, mixed, and ready for potting. You also can't deny just how amazing that crushed glass looks when the sun is beaming down. If you're not in a position to buy a soil mix, or you can't find any sphagnum peat moss and other mixes, you can flush your plant. You can flush water through your plant and measure the TDS reading of the water. Don't worry, more on TDS and measuring water in a little bit, if it's higher than 50. You can keep flushing the water through the existing soil and try to rinse out the dissolved solids. You can see this poor flytrap I picked up from Home Depot had toxic soil, reading over 250 parts per million. It needed to be flushed or repotted immediately. Real quick, before we get to the next care mistake you might be making that's slowly killing your Venus flytrap, let me show you how you can get your hands on your very own Venus flytrap cultivar or other amazing carnivorous plants. I'm so excited to be teaming up with California Carnivorous. They are one of the most experienced and knowledgeable carnivorous plant nurseries in the entire world. They have a massive selection year-round of all types of carnivorous plants. There will definitely be something in their nursery that you fall in love with. On top of that, they have been generous enough to offer my viewers an exclusive 10% discount on their order when they enter Bug Eater at checkout. That's Bugeater, Bug Eater. I have links in the description and the pinned comment so you can head on over and pick out the perfect carnivorous plant to add to your collection. You know you deserve it. Let's go ahead and head on back to the video. Building on the same story as before, after repotting my Venus flytrap in lethal potting soil that contained nutrients and fertilizer, I decided to water this poor little plant with some water from the garden hose. We had well water growing up, so it was likely better water than most city water. The problem is, even well water typically has minerals and nutrients. The same logic with water is true as with soil. Venus flytraps need a water that is pure or distilled. It needs to contain below 50 parts per million of dissolved solids. Again, you will likely need a TDS meter to measure your water source. For most, this is tap water. I can tell you from experience that most tap water is a slow death sentence for Venus flytraps. There are a few places around the world that contain pure enough water right out of the tap. The only way to know for sure, however, is to measure with a TDS meter. It must read below 50 parts per million for the water to be safe for Venus flytraps. Water questions are among the most common that I get on my channel. The questions typically are people asking about the source of the water. Can I use water from a stream? Can I use the water from my air conditioner? Can I use bottled drinking water? Can I use rainwater from my gutters? The answer is almost always the same for me. I can't know for sure without measuring with the TDS meter. Some roofs and gutters contain chemicals and particles that get into the water. Some streams have really high mineral count that is bad for Venus flytrap roots. I can tell you with certainty that using distilled water that you can buy at big box stores by the gallon should be okay. I can also tell you that buying a zero water pitcher can also be a great source of pure water. The great thing about buying a zero water pitcher is that it comes with a TDS meter. So not only can you measure your pure filtered water, but you can also now measure other water sources, like your rainwater or your tap water. Keep in mind that zero water pitchers have a unique filtering system different than household Brita-like systems. Most drinking water filter systems do not get rid of all the dissolved solids and don't work for Venus flytraps. I have a full video all about zero water pitchers if you want more info. You can also purchase one from a link in the description and pinned comment. It's also worth noting that most rainwater is good to go. However, I can't guarantee it will work. Some areas that are polluted can be bad for your Venus flytraps. Once again, I just can't guarantee rainwater will be good for your plant without being able to measure it with a TDS meter. I have a link in the description to buy a TDS meter. They're usually only around $10, or if you want to get a zero water pitcher, they come with a TDS meter. Just to quickly explain, one of the most common minerals found in water are salts. Salts and other minerals will burn the roots of Venus flytraps. If the water has too much salt or other minerals, it will slowly eat away the Venus flytrap root system. If you're like me and using potting soil along with hard water, you're just begging for a much quicker slow death for your Venus flytrap. Before we jump into care mistake number 3, if you're finding this video helpful or entertaining, make sure to pour some water on my like button and subscribe to help my channel grow. My dream is to open up my very own carnivorous plant nursery someday, and you being here is supporting my dream. Liking, subscribing, commenting, and even finishing the video to the end are all ways you can support my dream completely free of charge. If you're feeling super generous, you can buy a bag of soil or maybe even a plant if I have one for sale. Learn how you can do that in the description and pinned comment below. Let's go ahead and get back to the video. Now, after repotting my Venus flytrap in death soil and giving it a big heaping dose of death water, the next thing I did was stick it right in my windowsill. I wanted to display this plant where I could watch it and see it often. I wanted to be able to lay in my bed and watch it as it caught flies by the dozen. Little did I know, I had just swung at the third pitch and missed badly. Strike 1, strike 2, and now strike 3. I've now struck completely out and my poor Venus flytrap never stood a chance. It died slowly over the next few weeks. Venus flytraps need a lot of light, more light than most windowsills can provide. This is the part of my video where, without fail, I get comments from people saying they've been raising Venus flytraps on a windowsill for 20 years with no problem. My answer is always the same. That's awesome. You struck the windowsill lottery and you are in a unique situation that's worked for your plants. However, most windowsills just do not provide enough sun or light for your Venus flytrap. Light-starved Venus flytraps will often be a light green color and their leaves will start to get super broad. The broad leaves are a desperate attempt to create more surface to absorb more light. You will also notice that the new traps, the part that catches the insect, sprouting are much smaller. Broad leaves and small traps are the most common symptoms of not enough light. People argue with me about this all the time. They tell me that their plant is thriving. They send me a pic, and it's just not the truth. The plant is growing and putting out new leaves, but they're sickly, droopy, and pale. Your Venus flytrap can put out a lot of new growth and still be very unhealthy. The problem is, it's getting enough light to sustain growth, but not enough to thrive. Venus flytraps need full sun. They grow natively in North and South Carolina. Thinking of you, Shannon Collier. Shannon called me out on not including South Carolina as part of their native habitat, so I'm making sure to include that now. They grow in pine savannas where they get a lot of natural sun. A Venus flytrap really doesn't even need insects to live. They just need a lot of sun. They develop the ability to eat insects due to growing where large pine trees are present. These pine trees often prevent sun from coming through. Venus flytraps needed to get their nutrients elsewhere, so they developed the ability to capture and break down insects. Pretty cool, huh? I strongly recommend keeping them outside in full sun. Make sure that when you first bring your flytrap home, you slowly acclimate them to the full sun. Start with about 2 hours a day for the first week. Watch for brown burn marks. If it looks fine, bump it up to 4 hours a day the next week. Do this until they're getting all the sun that they can handle. Oftentimes, they don't see sun for many weeks between their original home and yours. Throwing them back into full sun can shock and burn them. If you're providing your Venus flytrap with enough sun, the inside of the trap should start turning a shade of red. The more light you give them, the more red that they will turn. If you live in an area with persistent extreme sun, I recommend keeping them in morning sun, then indirect sun for the hot afternoon. Some people have great success with a shade cloth in like Arizona or Texas. I strongly recommend finding a group of growers from your area, like on Facebook, and then pick their brain on what measures they take to avoid burning in areas with that kind of extreme heat. It's not something that I personally have a lot of experience with, so whoever's growing Venus flytraps locally in your area might have more suggestions for the extreme heat. Venus flytraps can be a little dramatic. The problem is that everyone wants to apply conventional gardening wisdom when they aren't a conventional plant. Their care really isn't that difficult, it's just them doing a lot of what we thought we know about gardening and growing and learning a new skill. I have a video that's under 10 minutes and covers every part of Venus flytrap care. It should be popping up on the screen here shortly. Make sure to go over there and check it out. I provide a lot of valuable Venus flytrap care information in a very small amount of time. I promise it'll be worth it if you want to keep your Venus flytrap alive and well. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more amazing carnivorous plant content. And I really hope to catch you in my next video. Bye.